Absolutely. Let's go ahead and start with the award predictions. We're going to be doing all the big ones: MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Rookie of the Year. We're not going to do Coach of the Year or Comeback Player of the Year or anything like that. Just stick with the big ones. Starting off with the biggest award and the most coveted award, the MVP. Drew, do you want to start or do you want me to start? We'll kind of go back and forth.
We're starting with MVP.
Oh, you want to start bottom up? You want to start with the rookies?
Yeah, let's get a roll going.
Okay, then defensive rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. Start off with one.
Let's go defensive.
Okay. So defensive rookie of the year, I have someone that we have vetted for months and months and months since the beginning of the draft.
If you pick my guy, I'm going to be so mad.
I'm going Laiatu Latu.
Okay, good. Perfect. I support your decision.
Laiatu Latu's been our pass rusher, the 2020 podcast rookie pass rusher, since we started doing the draft and the mock drafts and the rankings. Laiatu Latu's been our guy. The Defensive Rookie of the Year award has been very comfortably a pass rusher award. Sauce Gardner is the only exception outside of that, and he had to immediately propel himself into the conversation of best corner in the league to even win that award. So I think this is pretty comfortably a pass rusher. So I came down to a couple of guys, all pass rushers, but Latu is the guy I came out with. I think he has the perfect chance to start on a line that produced the league's 5th best sack team last year and the 10th best sack league sacks in the year before that. So 44 and 51 in those 2 years. The huge difference between the Colts and the other two guys and their respective teams is one man and one man alone. And it's DeForest Buckner. It's a guy that's a difference maker on the defensive line who takes up so much space and takes up so much attention for the other offensive linemen that the other guys have a chance to get free. And Laiatu Latu, with the multiple pass rush moves, the very, very clean presented pass rusher he is, has a chance to really make a big impact in his first year. Who did you go with?
I think that a lot of your argument here is sound. There was a plethora of talented corners that were taken here in the draft, guys that I pounded the table for. Yeah. And because of that, because of so many talented corners, I think it's going to be almost impossible for one of those corners to win the award this year.
Yeah.
Mainly because of what Sauce put on tape and what it takes for a corner to win. So I'm also going edge rusher, but I like Latu. He was my number one defensive player on the board. The thing about Latu is the Colts, their defense, their depth up there is pretty deep. It's pretty good. And expecting Latu to be able to, this is going to be a sub in on the pass rushing downs. And I just don't know if he's going to get enough statistical chances to win Defensive Player of the Year. Whereas on the flip side, my pick goes to a team that has Jalen Phillips with a torn Achilles and Bradley Chubb with a torn ACL, which is going to lead Chop Robinson to have a ton of opportunity to show off his raw talent, his super rare explosiveness, and they should just put him on the field and let him go. So my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year is going to be Chop.
That's funny because my other two candidates weren't even Chop. He didn't even cross my mind, honestly. Totally just slip up. I don't know if I'd even put him above the other two guys. For me personally, Jared Verse was like the very close second in this race. He plays alongside guys who aren't the biggest household names right now, but honestly, mark my words, these guys are going to make a lot of noise in the next 3 years. They're going to be a unit to recognize. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. Those guys are going to make a name for themselves, but I see him a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence making an impact on the run game, the tackles for a loss. Not a lot of sack production I could see from Jared Verse, at least in the first year. So I kind of weighed off of him a little bit and kind of steered toward Latu. But for me personally, Verse was like a really close second. I didn't even think about Chop, though. I probably should have.
The thing I have with Verse is he plays for the Rams, and so he has 2 games this year where he's going to have to go against the 49ers and
the who?
teams don't sack us too much. He has 2 games that he has to play against Kyler Murray, who's like my dark horse for having a massive season this year. I think he's going to be fantastic. And the Seahawks are quietly putting something together over there with their new offensive, or not, I guess, head coach. So that's 6 games against really competitive teams that he's going to have to play. And, there's going to be these games. The thing about Verse, though, is he's going to defend the run. So
absolutely,
that's going to be hard to. It's going to be hard to see how voters quantify that. With his run defense, because that's what he really brings to the table. So we'll see. I honestly don't hate either of your picks. As I was sitting down going through this, and we're like, who's the offensive rookie of the year? Well, we already know who that's going to be. So I just wanted to do something different for some of the other picks. So that's why I went with Chop.
Yeah. Well, then, mentioning it, obviously, offensive rookie of the year. This one's pretty simple. Caleb Williams is, I think, the definitive winner of this award. This isn't really this is an award that feels like quantified by position only. 3 quarterbacks and 2 wide receivers have won it in the last 5 years, but guys like Saquon and Alvin Kamara have won it in recent memory as well. So outside of the quarterback position, the other skill positions, if they break records, that still might not be enough. We saw that last year with Puka Nacua, with standing records that haven't been broken in decades and decades and decades, and it doesn't matter. If this rookie quarterback takes this team to new heights and new successes, they're going to choose that quarterback 9 times out of 10, maybe even go as far as 10 times out of 10. And I don't think there's any rookie quarterback in recent memory that's been able to step into a situation as catered to him as much as Caleb Williams has been able to, improving at every level of the offense this offseason. The Bears are poised to make a strong playoff push in a very shaky NFC conference, especially at those bottom rungs, to sneak into a wild card potentially. Caleb being able to potentially make the playoffs due to the NFC being weaker, being the Bears' potential first quarterback to pass for over 4,000 yards, potentially being the Bears' first quarterback to pass over for 30 touchdowns, and having the big household name, puts him squarely first for Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is his award to lose. And I don't really see anyone else kind of sneaking in unless you do.
No, I mean, the wide receivers, you just don't get enough stats. I mean, like you said, Puka did his thing last year and it wasn't even close. And there wasn't a top running back that was taken.
Right.
The outside shot here would probably be Bo Nix, because he's going to the Broncos and it's a pro ready offense and all that stuff. And that's kind of like a Caleb Williams gets hurt type of pick. I will ask you this, though, just kind of throw this at you. CJ Stroud last year, 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Does Caleb Williams have a better year than 4,100 yards and 23 and 5?
I think he's going to be similar. He could be very similar in the passing yards category. Touchdowns, I wouldn't put it past him to score more touchdowns than that. I think there's more weapons there. We're talking about DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, now bringing in Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, a very much improved offensive line. This is a team that's better poised.
DeAndre Swift.
This is a team that's better poised to make a run than the Texans were at the beginning of the year last year. I think he's gonna be a little bit better.
Yeah, the weapons are definitely considerable. Everybody talks about the Texans wide receiver core, but nobody talked about the Texans wide receiver core before the season. Nobody was talking about Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Nobody was talking about these guys. Now they burst on the scene because CJ Stroud played amazing and those players look like they're legit and here to stay. Yep. But nobody was talking about these guys, and it's not a Keenan Allen. It's not a Rome. So yeah, I mean, they could probably just give the dude the award now, assuming he stays healthy.
Yep.
That's just like, it was like when you asked me, do you want to do comeback player of the year? I'm like, no, it's Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on with life. You know what I mean? If he even comes back and has half a decent season, they're going to dump it on him. So,
right.
I mean, coach of the year is interesting, but if the Bears make the playoffs, then their head coach is coach of the year. Or if the Jets make the playoffs, then Robert Saleh is the coach of the year. So it's all just, I didn't want to do the lazy ones. Caleb Williams is kind of lazy, but it's, there's no argument there to be had.
If Caleb gets hurt, who's next up? You said Bo Nix is next up for that award, or is there anyone else that really comes into mind who might be next up if Caleb goes down with an injury?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold's the starter in Minnesota. Doesn't look like J.J. McCarthy is going to beat him out. Bo Nix sounds like he's the starter in Denver, and Drake May is just super raw. And I mean, my boy over in Washington, I pounded the table for him all offseason as the number 2 pick. I just think that the Washington is just not there yet.
Yeah.
And you might say that about the Broncos also, but the Broncos have Sean Payton, and that's,
what about Marvin?
They have Sean Payton. Mm-mm.
No, you don't think so? Even if Caleb goes down, you don't think Marvin has a pretty good chance to shoot him into that top conversation?
No, I think if we were going to go wide receiver, it's Malik Neighbors, because there's nothing else on that team. He might get 100 receptions this year. Like they're going to try to turn Malik Neighbors. This season is going to be like, they're going to do like the Deebo Samuel thing, like just get him the ball at any point of contact behind the line of scrimmage, 5 yards, 10 yards, deep balls, whatever. Can we get the ball into Malik Neighbors' hands and try to let him go crazy
as often as possible? Yeah,
he might just rack it. If the dude goes for like a couple 80 or 90-yard touchdowns this year, and the Giants all of a sudden they're sitting at 7-7, it's like, well, holy shit. The thing about the Cardinals is they still play in a super competitive division. So them being, Marvin Harrison racking up all these stats, I don't see it.
Outside shot, super sleeper from the chat. Joe Milton is a serious sleeper, maybe not for an award, but I think he takes a job from May.
It's actually, I will tell you, if the Cowboys had got their hands on one of those rookie running backs, then I think that would be an excellent chance.
Prime real estate. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the Cowboys, how many snaps is Trey Lance going to take this year?
How many games are we blowing people out in?
Okay.
Defensive player of the year. You want to go ahead and take the reins on this one? I'm curious to see where you go, if we're on the same page here, or even if we have the same candidates.
Yeah, I think this player is going to have a career high in sacks. I think he's going to have a career high in tackles for loss. I think he's going to have a career high in forced fumbles. I think he's going to have a pick 6. And I think he's going to get a massive contract, and that's going to be number 11, Mr. Micah Parsons.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Okay.
The thing about it is this keeps happening. Like a player shows out, like TJ Watt had a great year, and then the next year he won the award. Nick Bosa had a great year. Then the next year they gave Nick Bosa the award. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's all well-deserved. It just like, you can see this stuff coming on the horizon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Aaron Donald, I think he went 3 years in a row, and then JJ Watt he was 3 years, but not 3 years in a row.
Yeah, JJ's 3, yeah.
Micah has been talked about every season, and I'm super interested to see what Mike Zimmer does with him, because I just think that he's like a weapon, and what has been done with him the past couple of years has been best for his stats, but not best for the surprise of your defense. So I just think a little bit more linebacker, rushing him over the center.
Right.
I think that there's going to be a lot of stunts delayed. I think Micah could honestly, I think that Micah could have a great season overall, and he might have that Khalil Mack game where he has like 4 sacks against, like
the Niners,
the New Orleans Saints or something. Maybe we'll be on hand for that. So hopefully,
the Defensive Player of the Year award is pretty much.
If the Niners lose, I'm not driving us home though. I'm just letting you and your dad know right now. If we lose, I'm not making that damn drive. One of y'all is driving us back. So,
the Defensive Player of the Year award, I feel like up to this point, it's pretty comfortably a pass rusher award. Only one corner winner in the last 5 years. Xavier Howard is the only other non-pass rusher candidate in the last 5 years. And what's funny about the Defensive Player of the Year award is sack production does not equal automatic winner, but impact and advanced stats, like it feels like, matter more. And there's been no back-to-back winner in the last 5 years as well. My personal candidates, obviously, Micah is my winner, but my other candidates, obviously, TJ is going to be in it year after year because of his sack production that he ends up putting up. And then my other candidate, I think is a little bit of a sleeper pick, and I really hope that he propels himself in that Defensive Player of the Year category, is maybe Aiden Hutchinson. I think maybe a lot of eyes are going to be on him this season, and he could propel himself. It's funny you talking about all of the things with Micah about getting career highs in all of these statistics, because I had the same exact thing on my notes. This puts him in prime position to rack up solo tackles, pass breakups, interceptions, along with his normal double-digit sack numbers as well. A lot of Steeler fans are not going to like TJ not being picked for Defensive Player of the Year. I swear I see them crying on every single social media post out there, regardless of what social media site it is. I think TJ is one of the most consistent pass rushers in the last few years, stacking up, incredible sack numbers after incredible sack numbers. But he very often gets overlooked for these awards, regardless of those numbers. Some of the advanced stats last year were not really favorable towards him, especially the double team percentage. While Alex Highsmith, his teammate, is getting double teamed at a higher percentage than he is, he's able to get to the quarterback a little bit more often. So out of the big guys, the big pass rushers, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, these guys, TJ Watt is getting double teamed the least amount out of all these guys. So I think that really kind of puts eyes on TJ, on how much sack production is he getting compared to impact over the whole 60 minutes of the game. But again, Aiden for me is a very close second, and I just kind of want to spotlight that and throw that out, that he could potentially be a candidate in there. I think he could take a big leap in this next coming year.
I just think that, much like I said about what happens with this award, is Aiden could have more sacks than Micah Parsons this year, and Micah still win it. And then Aiden's the favorite going in next year. The thing about Steelers fans and TJ Watt is, like, listen, I'm going to tell you that, hey, Jacob, I'm here from the future. I just want to give you this small tidbit to let you know, with the 49ers signing Leonard Floyd and letting him go nuts, Nick Bosa had 22 and a half sacks this year, and he won Defensive Player of the Year. That's not surprising to anyone. Right? If TJ Watt goes nuts and wins Defensive Player of the Year, that's not surprising to anyone. But I'm also not picking Patrick Mahomes as MVP, because that's fucking boring. So it's Micah. He hasn't won it yet, and as long as he doesn't have a terrible year, if he's in the top 3 of all those categories, they're just going to give it to him because it's his time.
Yep, absolutely. All the other guys that I've already mentioned have already won theirs, besides Max. But he's just not. He's like a step behind the other guys, which Trader fans aren't going to like that one. Offensive Player of the Year, I'll go ahead and take it. I had a couple of candidates, but my winner, I ended up going with a guy that I did not think of immediately when I first jumped into it. And it's Ja'Marr Chase. I think Ja'Marr Chase has a very, very, very strong case for Offensive Player of the Year. My other candidates were Saquon Barkley, obviously moving to the Eagles, getting that new offensive line, and potentially CeeDee Lamb as well. For me, Ja'Marr Chase is one season away, one contract away, or one offseason away from getting the big contract at this point. And players prove time and time again that a massive season before a contract extension is a normal thing. Ja'Marr Chase has been 1,000-yard, 80-catch, 7-touchdown receiver at the bare minimum every single year. And now with last year, he's also not just been the big play receiver, right? We see like guys like George Pickens, he's the big play receiver. But I don't think of George Pickens as like an underneath guy with a bunch of catches. Ja'Marr Chase turned himself into that guy. He had 100 catches last year. So if he can continue that, especially with the departure of Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon moving on, Joe Burrow healthy, back, and giving Ja'Marr Chase really a massive chance, I think this could be his award to win. I know there's other candidates, but looking back in the last 5 years, there hasn't really been a whole bunch of repeat guys inside like that top 3 of potential getting it in the last 5 years. So Ja'Marr Chase, wild card, throw him in there. I think he's primed for it. Who do you have? Because I'm curious now.
I just kind of thought to myself who the best offensive weapons in the NFL are. Mm-hmm. And Christian McCaffrey won it last year, and Justin Jefferson has won it. CeeDee Lamb isn't even on a team right now, so I can't qualify him because who knows what's going on with that. And I do not think it's going to be Ja'Marr Chase. And so I kind of went chalk on this one. I think it's Tyreek Hill. He probably could have won it last year. And again, just an offense that is going to give him all the touches in the world to try to win ball games. I think Tyreek is probably going to go freaking nuts this year, and much like he did last year. And he got hurt last year, which kind of hurt him in the offensive player of the year. So my pick is Tyreek Hill. And if you don't mind, can I lead off MVP next?
Yeah, sure. I had a hard time with the Tyreek Hill thing. How many times can this guy really put up these incredible stats year after year after year? This guy has hit that
year after year.
That dreaded 30 age at this point. I'm not so sure how much further he could go, and I was kind of nervous about picking him to kind of throw him into that award category. I just don't know if he's going to put up another 119 catches, 1,700 yards, 10 plus touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to do something like that again. It's possible. We're talking about the most explosive receiver in the league. We're in that, I'm in that time period right now where I'm kind of unsure of where Tyreek's at, just because of age and when he's going to slow down. You can't keep up that type of game forever. I'm just not so sure when that time is going to come. So I totally get it, honestly, and it makes a lot of sense. I couldn't bring myself to actually give him that award. With the MVP, though, Drew wants to lead it off. I'm very, very interested to see where you go, because I don't have the chalk pick either.
Yeah, so Jamar Chase can't win Offensive Player of the Year when they give Joe Burrow the MVP award. So I disagree with your Offensive Player of the Year, because they're not going to reward both those guys. But Joe Burrow is going to make it back to the Super Bowl this year, and he is going to take home an MVP award.
He was in my candidates. I had a ton of candidates, because it's a quarterback award, and no winner in the last 5 years have finished below number one in their own respective conference. I just don't know if the Bengals are going to put all of it together. Kind of got the shaky running back situation going on. What is behind those top two wide receivers? I'm not so sure what's on that defense. I'm not 100%.
Remind me that running back again. They were so in love with it. Is it Zach Moss? Is that who they signed?
Zach Moss, you're right.
They traded away.
Absolutely.
They traded away my boy and celebrated him like, oh my God, we got Zach Moss. Like, all right. Hey, but Joey B is going to win the MVP this year, so you guys are going to be all right.
I have someone else who is very young and is a very standout quarterback, and I think he's going to continue the trend of second-year AFC quarterbacks.
You could not winning give an CJ MVP Stroud award. The MVP. Get the fuck out of here. No.
Why is it out that outlandish? Why is it?
Because they'll just never give it to him.
Why?
Because it's his second year. They just won't.
They did it to Patrick Mahomes. They did it to Lamar Jackson. This is a recent trend that's happened.
Patrick Mahomes and Lamar still exist.
Yeah, I totally understand it, but I'm also picking the Texans to take a giant leap this year. No team except maybe the Eagles has improved more than the Texans this offseason. It's very clear what they are doing. They're putting all of their chips in. They're telling you, this is our focal point on offense. We're telling you, this is CJ Stroud. He told you who he was last year. He came out, and he came out with just straight fire. And he's going to continue it with all of the offensive weapons that they've added. It's going to just give him more fuel to the fire. You're giving the guy more weapons, better weapons.
I'm not super impressed with Stephon Diggs. I don't think that changes much for him.
I think it does. I think Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs are definitely big ups. Regardless,
I think that he's going to have statistically a worse season this year than he did last year.
I don't think so.
The hunters become the hunted. They're not going to catch anybody by surprise this year. And Patrick Mahomes won it. He has fucking Andy Reid. And Lamar won it because he ran all over people and had a shit ton of rushing touchdowns. CJ Stroud doesn't have that in his game.
I don't think the other guys, regardless, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, I don't think they're going to win an MVP this next year. I think you're getting a little bit of voter fatigue. Like, Lamar won it off of a weak year out of a bunch of different people. I don't think they're going to give it to
Patrick Mahomes should be the fucking MVP every year. He won a Super Bowl last year with no wide receivers, and now he's got Xavier Worthy and he's got Hollywood Brown.
Yep. And LeBron James should be the MVP every single year in the NBA, but it's something that just doesn't happen. Other guys who get a lot of kind of dark horse picks, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy are all getting whispers about potential. And I just don't
No.
see any of those guys. I don't have enough faith in Jalen Hurts as a player. Jared Goff and Brock Purdy are not sexy picks. And I don't think they're going to hand a award out to either one of those guys. And Jordan Love has too many question marks off of a handful of games last year in this massive contract that I'm just not so sure he's going to be able to repeat and perform. I'm not mad about the Joe Burrow pick at all. I want to go different, and I think the Texans are going to have a massive year. And I know you think they're going to be CJ is going to be worse, but I don't think so. I think CJ is going to be better.
I'm going to go ahead and give you one of my 5 predictions just because we're on this conversation, and I'm going to take it off and I'll add another one. But Justin Herbert's going to have a better year this year than CJ Stroud does. It's one of my outlandish 5 picks this year.
Yeah, well, I have a Chargers one too, so
that is a professionally coached football team, and I love DeMeco Ryans, but the Texans are on everybody's radar this year. They're getting everybody's best fucking shot, and that is hard to deal with.
Yeah, potentially. But I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be a lot better.